Hey guys, my name's Elizabeth and welcome back to my channel, Midwest McCulloch Homestead. I am a beginner gardener and homesteader based in South Central Indiana, and for today's video I'm going to be taking you along as I can a very small batch of tomatoes. By small, I mean I canned 3 pints. I have 3 pints of diced tomatoes from my garden. This is my second year canning tomatoes, and both times I've had really small yield. I got maybe 4 or 5 pints of tomatoes last year. As a beginner, canning can be really intimidating. I just think it's important to know you don't have to have lots of fancy equipment or pounds and pounds of tomatoes in order to can tomatoes. For today's video, I use a water bath canner, ball jars, tongs for removing my cans from the boiling water, and then obviously tomatoes. You need lemon juice for your cans, and you also need salt. Tomatoes are one of the few produce that you can actually use a water bath canner. And last year I did not have a water bath canner. I actually ended up using just a large stock pot, and this worked just the same as using a water bath canner. So have no fear, canning tomatoes is not as hard as it looks. And with that being said, hit that subscribe button and let's get started.
I already sterilized my jars here. I had these in boiling water for 10 minutes. And now I've got my lids and rings boiling. Those two will sterilize for about 10 minutes once the water's boiling. I'm going to wash all of our tomatoes. I've got an assortment of tomatoes in this basket. We have 3 different kinds of tomatoes, and I honestly couldn't tell you what they are. One of them is actually a volunteer tomato plant from last year. It's the one that's growing between our coop and our garden, and that one is probably the most productive one. And then there's some from my tomato plant and some larger ones that are from Taylor's tomato plant. So I'm just going to wash all these real quick. My lids and rings have been boiling for about 10 minutes now, so I'm going to go ahead and take those out, and then I'm going to get some water boiling. Oh, darn it. And then I'll get some water boiling to peel my tomatoes.
Now I'm removing the woody part of the tomato that connects to the stem, and then I'm scoring the tomato on the opposite side, which is just where you do 2 short cuts in the tomato perpendicular to one another. Where you score the tomatoes is where you'll be able to start peeling them from.
I've only canned tomatoes one other time. I did it last year, and I learned to peel them when I did it last year. So that's why I'm doing that this time. So I've got my tomatoes all of the stems were cut out, and then I've got them all scored on the backside. But once my water is boiling, it's hot. As soon as my water is boiling, I will dump those in there and leave them for about a minute. You don't want to do much longer because they just get like mushy and they get more difficult to dice. All right, my water is nearly boiling, so I'm just going to go ahead and start adding in my tomatoes. And like I said, you don't want to leave them in for too long. You don't want to leave them in for longer than a minute. I learned last year, if you start to notice them peeling in the water, they've probably been in there for too long. So set your timer, don't leave the stove, just take them out as soon as that minute has passed. And I'm already starting to notice some of them peeling. So I'm going to go ahead and start scooping them out. And I'm just putting them into this empty bowl. Like that one's already peeling. This one can go for another second. Really, it's like as soon as you get the last tomato in, you can start taking them out. I'm going to give them a second to cool down, and then I will start peeling the skins off. Now I'm just going to take my tomatoes and peel the skin off. So look at that. Comes off so nicely, and my tomato's not super mushy. So perfect. And I've just got my strainer next to me, and I'm sticking all the tomato skins in there. Yeah, that's a good peel. It's pretty satisfying, honestly. Alright, I'm gonna get all these tomatoes peeled and I will see you in a second. You totally don't have to peel your tomatoes, it's just a matter of personal preference. But because this is how I did it last year, I just wanted to do the same thing again. Just got a few more tomatoes here. Now we are moving on to dicing. And this is gonna get pretty messy, so I don't know, just be warned. It gets pretty messy. So I'm gonna cut them crosswise. That looks so cool. Cool. Alright. And just kind of dice them however you like them. I cut it into about a half inch slice, and then just cut them down to the size that you like. I mean, you also could like crush them and make crushed tomatoes. You also, at this point, could make like a spaghetti sauce, or you know, there's so many things you can do with tomatoes to can them. And tomatoes are one of the few. Gordy's waking up from his nap. I don't know if you can hear that. But tomatoes are one of the few produce that you actually can water bath can. Garden veggies have to be canned in a pressure canner, but because tomatoes have such a high acidity level, they can be canned in water bath. So I still have about half of my tomatoes left to dice, but I'm going to go ahead and add some tomatoes into a jar so I can clear the space and make room for, there's Gordy, I need to go get him, make room for dicing more. This funnel, super handy. My grandma actually gifted me a lot of her canning, a bunch of her canning supplies that she wasn't using anymore. My grandpa, when he was alive, had a huge garden every year, and he grew tomatoes. Like that was the biggest thing, was growing tomatoes. So she gave me 2 water bath canners, and the one that I'm using today is a really nice like ball canner, water bath canner. It's awesome to have that kind of resource in your family. I'm just going to be using the pint size mason jars. That's usually what I will cook with, is just like a regular what do you call it, like 15-ounce can of tomatoes when I do cook with tomatoes. So that's just how I'll be canning them now. I do also have quart size jars, but I think that for these purposes the pint size will be better. Now I'm just going to clean my workspace and then keep dicing. Some tomatoes are diced, and now I'm just going to be adding them into my cans until I run out of tomatoes. So yeah, now it was really nice to have a funnel. I'm not gonna lie, I did not have a funnel last year, and it was significantly messier. I didn't think I'd run out of tomatoes so fast. 4 pints of tomatoes. Give me just a second to clean up. I'm going to take this little tool and just get all the air bubbles out of my cans. And now you could use like, now this one's not full of lemon juice, and half a teaspoon of salt. Darn it, I did not use that can. We're going to wipe the rims of our jars, and we're going to put our lids on. So you want to make sure that the rim of your jar is completely free of debris or any kind of tomato, because it will interfere with the seal. It will interfere with the seal, and ultimately could be a really bad situation if that happens. Okay. And you just want to get them like just tight enough. You don't want to have them too tight, because that also could affect its ability to seal if it's too tight. So just tight by hand. Like you don't want to go any further than what you can loosen on your own. All of my jars are in the water bath canner. You saw I had 4. I'm gonna have to look into if I can use that one that's not all the way full, because I am not sure. But once this gets simmering, we will leave it for 45 minutes for them to process, and then I will take them out.
It's been 45 minutes, and so now I'm going to start taking my cans out of the boiling water. When you take them out and set them down on the counter, you don't want to move them again until they're completely cooled, because a rapid change in temperature could affect the cans. You should hear the lids pop, but if you're not in the kitchen at the time that they do, you'll also be able to tell by the indentation on the lid. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I didn't really intend on it being a tutorial, but I do hope that it is helpful for you if you are working with a small garden and small harvest of tomatoes, that you do see that it's still possible to can tomatoes even when you don't have that much. Please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and feel free to share if you would like to as well. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye.